Wow. Let's let's visit a couple of things that came out of our research on secret programs. We found some interesting classified programs, and they're under a banner called Magic projects. What's interesting about the spelling is you go back to ancient Babylon, and we're actually using Babylonian money magic, spelled the same way, which is not magic, it's just deception. So if you look at the government's deception projects, there are a number of these that have been very serious over the last 70 years. And what's more interesting is they classify many of these as alien encounters and UFOs. But what we understand is what they are labeling as aliens, those are actually fallen angels. So it's important to realize that even though you or your family may not believe what the Bible and what the scripture says, the reality is we've got so many proofs. And we're actually going to do a deep dive on the Nephilim, the man eaters that were known as giants, very shortly here. But it's important to realize that that bloodline still exists today. Even though we don't have giants per se, we still have that particular lineage and their practices alive and with us. So let's take a look at some of these classified projects. This is the result of one or more scientists creating an unauthorized notebook documenting their involvement with these top secret programs. The government publications and information obtained cannot be used or subject to copyright. So this document's going to be released into the public domain for all citizens of the USA. Keep in mind, again and again, they refer to aliens. We understand these to be fallen angels, so don't buy the alien narrative. Understand that the same fallen angels that were bent on destruction of the human race in Genesis 6 are these same aliens as they're being dealt with today. And also keep in mind, those fallen angels, we also have other angels that aren't fallen, and they were known as the Watchers. So the Watchers are with us as well, and we'll get into details on that. So let's look at some of these projects, and then we'll dig a little deeper. So there's more than a dozen of these that we're going to touch lightly on. Sigma is where we first established communications with these fallen angels. Plato is the responsible for diplomatic relations with fallen angels. Keep in mind, you can't deal with these individuals. So we're deluding ourselves as humans to think that we can negotiate with them. They have far more power than we do. The other thing, we agreed that the aliens or the fallen angels agreed to furnish a list of abductees on a periodic basis so that the government would know who they're abducting for experiments. Think of that. Our government is in collusion with them and allowing them to abduct people. Aquarius is the project that documents the history of the presence here on Earth. Garnet is the project responsible for control of all the information and documents. In other words, they want to keep it secret. Pluto is a project responsible for evaluating all information pertaining to, quote, space technology, unquote. Pounce was a project that was formed to recover all downed and crashed aircraft. And the reason they do that, obviously, is to prevent people from figuring out what's going on. NRO, which is the National Recon Organization based out of Fort Carson, Colorado, is responsible for security on those fallen angels and their craft. Delta is the designation for the specific arm of the NRO that is especially trained and tasked with security for all of these projects. It's a security team and task force especially trained to provide alien task or fallen angel task projects. And Luna Security also has the code name Men in Black. That project is still ongoing. So even though we may laugh at the movie Men in Black, it's real, it's happening. It may not be as extreme as what we saw on the movie screen, but it's real. Again, life or art imitates life many times. So keep that in mind. Blue Team is the first project responsible for reaction and or recovery of downed and crashed aircraft. Sign is the second project responsible for collection of intelligence and determining whether or not this is a threat to U.S. national security. How arrogant, right? These are people and beings that have far superior technologies than we do, and we're trying to determine if they're a threat. Of course they are. It's just arrogant for us to think otherwise. Red Light was the project to test fly recovered craft, and that's based out of Area 51. That's why they pushed the boundaries back an additional 20 some odd miles, because people were getting too close to seeing what was going on. The project has been partially successful, and there's been sightings of these craft by other people. So the project is still ongoing in Nevada. Snowbird was first established as a cover for Project Red Light. So a craft was built using conventional technology and then unveiled to the press. So again, they're trying to manage you by disinformation. And then Blue Book, this is where I got involved when I was a kid. This was the disinformation project, and the project was terminated, and its collected information and duties were absorbed by Project Aquarius. So there's all sorts of interesting documents and books written on Blue Book. So definitely worth your time in investigating this. Now, all of these Majic projects have contingency plans. So let's take a look at this. So whoops, there we go. So in 1949, there was a contingency plan that's labeled here that was to make allowance for public disclosure. So General Doolittle made a prediction that one day we'd have to recon with these folks. And in the Blue Book report, number 13, it stated that it appeared General Doolittle was correct. There's also in the Blue Book report number 13, that mentioned that the document stated many military government personnel and civilians have been terminated, i.e. murdered, without due process of law when they attempted to reveal the secret. That's our government. So keep that in mind. So there are several contingency plans in case this stuff gets out. So let's look at Plan A. So Plan A is to contain or delay the release of information. As a disinformation ploy to delay and confuse the release of information, this was selected because of the similarity of all of it. And it was designed to confuse memory and to result in a fruitless search for material that never existed. Plan B, should it become public or the fallen angels take over, which actually should be coming. This plan called for a public announcement that a terrorist group had entered the United States with an atomic weapon, and we would now see that's nuclear. It would be announced that the terrorists planned to detonate the weapon in a major city, martial law would be declared, and all persons with implants would be activated by the aliens. That person in this specific case would be rounded up by the Project Majic along with all dissidents and would be placed into concentration camps. Ever wonder why they have all these camps built around America? They do exist, and there's plenty of documentation on them. People want to say, no, it doesn't exist, but this time is coming, so we need to be ready for this. Anyone attempting to resist would be arrested or killed, so be aware. This is coming. So let's talk a little bit about NSA. So NSA is very interesting in how they were created and what they're about. They were supposedly created to protect recovered flying discs initially, and eventually got complete control over our communication. This control them allows them to monitor anybody through the mail, through telephone, through faxes, telegrams, now electronic, online, monitoring private and personal communications, however they choose. In fact, the present day NSA is the current main expression of the Majic projects. And pertaining to the flying saucer programs, vast amounts of disinformation are spread throughout the UFO research field. Any witnesses have their lives monitored in every detail because they're supposedly a security catch. So people who have worked in the program, including military members that break their oath, could have any one of the following direct consequences: a verbal warning, a stronger warning, psychologically working on an individual to bring depression that leads to suicide. This is our government. All right, keep that in mind. Murder of the person made to look like suicide or an accident, strange and sudden accidents, confinement in a detention center, lock them up in an insane asylum, or bring the individual inside and then have them employed and underground where they can control them. Any individual they perceive to be too close will be treated in the same manner. So here's some facts about aliens, aka fallen angels on Earth, and these are under a folder called Omnidata. After all these years, it's important, and here's the things. So supposedly these crafts have crashed on Earth. Actually, we know they come from beyond the ice wall. So keep that in mind. And that's for a discussion on another day, but there's a reason Antarctica is off limits. Alien crafts are both ultra-dimensional and sources within this dimension. So they come from several dimensions, not just what we know. Early governments to acquire technology have been successful, so we made deals. Think about deals with the devil, right? That's exactly what this is. We've had live fallen angels at some point. We've conducted autopsies on the dead ones. The intelligence agencies have been covering up on this for years. And if you look at abducted, mutilated, murdered, and kidnapped, there are those that have had this happen to them by these individuals. There's a current presence on Earth among us that controls different elements of our society. This is absolutely accurate. Alien forces maintain bases on Earth and, we are told, on the moon. The U.S. government has had a working relationship with these for some time. Their express purpose, obviously, is to gain technology, gravitational propulsion, beam weaponry, and we already know about directed energy weapons. So think about this. We're making deals with these that are obviously superior to us, and they're not going to give us things that will allow us to subvert them. So we need to be very careful about this. Cattle mutilations, that's a well-documented experience. Again, many dimensions that are involved here. The truth about our actual technology far exceeds that given to the public. So again, one of the things people talk about in Nasara and Jasara is the release of hidden technologies. Folks, be very careful about that. These technologies that are hidden and suppressed, some of these are not intended for us. So be very careful. And it's actually coming very soon. So people are actively being killed to suppress the facts about this situation. So the CIA and NSA are doing everything they can to cover this. And our civilization, according to them, is one of many. I would not believe a word out of the fallen angels' mouths. So keep all of that in mind. There are several classifications of extraterrestrials according to our government. And we'll get into detail down below here. But there's invited aliens, those that have come with unknown missions, captured aliens, those with scientific motives, those who are dangerous, those who observe, we call those watchers, right here. Those that have come to live among us, and small groups who have decided to interfere with our history. There are, according to our government, 160 or more known types of aliens visiting our world at this present time. So again, Men in Black is actually art imitating life. So I'm not going to read all of this, but if you want to go into detail, check the article that will be linked on the information below. But there's grays, there's Nordics, there's interdimensional short humanoids, very tall. We know those as Nephilims, and Men in Black. So it's important that we understand there is a difference, and there are some that are very hostile to us. Things that we need to know, according to what they've given us, is there are a number of races that spun out of the fall. So keep that in mind and realize if you read Genesis 6 as well as the book of Enoch, the interbreeding by fallen angels with human women is what resulted in many of these offshoots. So there is an explanation and breakdown of the various races of aliens. So definitely dig into that. It's fascinating. And then take a look at there's a number of missions that they have already codified and executed here. So all of these missions are things that our government has been tracking. And you have to ask, if that's true, then help us understand why. And they don't give us a lot of that. Now, if you want to read the actual documents where all this research came from, linked on our webpage is the ScribD document, so you can go through and read the actual document with all of the details and all of the footnotes. So it's all here. So definitely, if you want to dig into this, definitely encourage you to do so. So keep that in mind. And also always remember, when they talk about aliens, and it's going to come a time where they will introduce aliens to our society, they are not aliens. They are fallen angels, just like in Genesis 6. And that was the reason for the judgment that fell as the flood of Noah. So, and all of the behaviors and things that the fallen angels were into drove the annihilation of all the corrupted the genetics. So keep that in mind. Have a great day, and I'll look forward to discussing more with you in the near future.